boy, I'm a pretty boy. Always thought we need a miracle to go from cooking in the back of the class to making it last. But look at me now, I'm pretty visible. I'll name another with the flow so clinical. Talk about me like I'm oh so mythical. Check the birthday, we like to celebrate. Tequila, mix it with the lemonade. Yeah, I know you kill it with the mic, boy. But what you doing with your life, boy? Yeah, you always were a bright boy. I just wanna be polite, boy. Yeah, that shit to me is white noise. I've been feeling like a waterfall. What you wanna say, I want it all. Yeah, we ain't afraid of the heights. I've been looking down. The city showing me the lights as I look around. Iced out. All my dogs in the sun looking nice out. Yeah, everybody wanna talk on the nights out. We only party with the lights out. Iced out. Everybody looking nice out. Yo. I don't need your advice. What does he know? Real life movie, I'm Pacino. Dark layer flow. I don't wanna be the hero. Lately, I've been feeling like I'm zero. Curry boy. I like jalapeno. Yeah, I like it. Pull up everywhere with my amigos. Yeah, now everybody watching me go. Going through the motions, I'm feeling emo. Yeah. These days, I've been feeling all of these ways. Call my daddy, told me, be safe. Yeah, you know that life is not a freeway. No. Yeah, these days, I've been feeling like I'm a waterfall. Yeah. What you want, I say, I want it all. Yeah, we ain't afraid of the heights. I've been looking down. The city showing me the lights as I look around. Yeah. Iced out. All my dogs in the sun looking nice out. Yeah, now everybody wanna talk on the nights out. We only party with the lights out. Bring it back. Iced out. We looking nice out. Yeah, we gon' do it till it died out.
Homegrown is one of the coolest and most popular platforms for progressive youth culture. The artists you feature and your created content is always a great inspiration for us. So, Varsha and Varun, you're the siblings who founded Homegrown. Tell me, where and how were you brought up? And how has India or Indian culture shaped your identity?
When you for it.
Varsha, we'll switch. Next one I'll go first.
I think it's important you go for it.
I haven't prepared.
It's interesting that you speak of Indian identity because Varun and I have had we've grown up differently. I've been away from home since I was the age of 8. I've been away. I've been in Los Angeles, and then finally I came back to India, and Homegrown wasn't supposed to happen. And to be very honest, I come from a time, I'm from the early 80s, where life in India was very different. And for the kind of person I am, I always felt stifled. I felt like my voice wasn't heard. I felt like I was different. I felt like, I was always sort of the odd one out, more so being a woman who, speaks her mind. And I did everything to run away from India. Like, to be honest, everything. I hated being, and our mom is very liberal. So it was not from a point of view of the household, but just society around. I felt stifled so much. And it's so crazy because in coming back to India, in building Homegrown, I finally found myself again. And we sort of created and shaped this Indian identity that spoke to us, right? It was an identity, the idea of being Indian for us and for me was being progressive, was about pushing boundaries, was questioning status quo, was not taking from your roots and your origin and celebrating that in a new sort of way. And for me, that is my Indian identity. And even being in Los Angeles, it was funny because, people would constantly be like, oh, you don't seem very Indian, because the idea of Indianness or the idea of Indianness is so myopic and it's so, it's so defined. And I was like, I don't have to, and I used to keep sort of fighting back and be like, I don't have to wear it on my sleeve. And I didn't even know what that sort of meant then. But it's interesting coming back to building Homegrown. I think I've finally found myself and my idea of India and what we want to create. So, yeah.
For me, it's been obviously very different. I didn't get to travel or study abroad. More for a place because
he wasn't a good student.
Yeah, because I left. Yeah, that's what I mean. I left college when at grade 12. But before that, I think I've lived all my life in India. I've been lucky that I've gotten a chance to live in an urban city like Bombay. My parents, both of them came from East India in a state called Orissa. They've gotten a chance to literally start off from scratch and give us a lot of what we have today and what I've gotten a chance to experience. So I've been really lucky. In terms of my identity, I don't know what's the best way of defining it, but I would like to say it's a perfect balance of understanding where our streets and where we come from and what people don't have access to, and living and experiencing that through my friends and people I knew when I was younger, to also the more privileged side because of what my parents gave me. What that helped me grow, or rather what that helped me with, was to understand what so many people lack that I'm actually super grateful of having. Thanks to the education system in India, it pushed me out of leaving the education system because it didn't work for me. I essentially had ADHD, I still do, where my interests lie in too many places. I was confined to thinking in a certain way, where it was not just society, it was the education system, and it was the cultural system at large. You were made to be a certain way. India was made to be this, but that is exactly the thing that I wanted to break away from, was to show that India is much more than this. And when I mean India, I'm talking about 1/7 of the world is much more than what the world perceives us for. I started off not knowing what I wanted to do. Varsha thankfully pushed me to start working about a decade back. I knew I really loved the internet and I knew the possibilities with it. And in a country like India that needs community to come together, that was the perfect medium to do that through. I would say that's the best that I can explain it. We are still defining what this Indian identity is. There's much more to be seen. And I really think that this decade will see what India is for, and what people perceive as for will change.
And I think the Indian identity is honestly ever evolving. I mean, if you look at, the interesting thing is, I'm sure from a West point of view, there is this whole shift from a brown narrative that we're constantly seeing today. But however, when you look inward in India, the incredible number of states and communities and dialects and, regions and people, the diversity is manifold. And today you're sort of seeing all of these incredible microcosms because of the internet. You're finally seeing that sort of diversity. We're not binary. And that's the whole idea of the Indian identity. It's ever evolving. It's not binary. It's not pigeonholed. You can choose to be whoever you choose to be. And that's really the power of the Indian identity.
Diverse and ever evolving. I like that a lot. So what's your definition of home?
For me, home is where my brother is, where my mother is, where love is, to be honest. And, my sister, my cousin is, and to me, that is home. Of course, everything around it. And I think that if they want that for me, I don't think India would be home. Yeah.
And for me, I mean, I'm pretty much.
And my cat now.
You got 4, but not 1.
Yeah,
you don't give love to the other ones, and you keep calling our mother your mother only. But anyways.
We would like to establish that we share the same mother. We've had.
Home for me has always been Bombay. It's always been India. I'm happy I didn't get a chance to maybe go and travel or live abroad in some ways. But that's what excited me. That's what made me. I believe that my home can be much better, right? I believe that India can be much better. I believe Bombay can be so much better. Mumbai can be so much better. And that was the thing. I'm lucky that I got a chance to travel a lot on holidays with my dad, with my mom. And that gave me a glimpse of what the world outside is, which made me realize that why doesn't India have this when we are capable of doing this exactly the same? We're not just talking about infrastructure or societal or cultural differences. We're talking about the gap that can easily be filled. And that's something that excited us. And that was one of the reasons why we always questioned, I at least questioned my ex-bosses, being like, why are we not doing this? I questioned somebody like, why doesn't India have this? And there was always this perception that home in India was defined as, we are not ready for this type of home. This is not our home, but that's not that, right? For us, we can learn from abroad, we can learn from the West, we can learn from everywhere, but we always adapt it and make it our own. And that was the thing where my home is India, and I want the world to see what our home is, and there's so much more that we have to show you.
But what's the biggest difference between growing up in India and growing up in the West?
Yeah, the biggest difference is collectivism, right? I think there is a strong sense of course, individualism abroad, right? However, in India, and I think even within creating, I think that's what I ran away because I wanted my individualism. But at the same time, there's this power of collective identity, of community, of having each other's back, for love, for relationships, relationships that truly matter and that's beyond your own family. And I think for me, that I truly feel is distinctive of at least my experience living in the West versus being in India, is that the fact that in the middle of the night I can pick up the phone if I need help or assistance, and you have that sort of community, sense of community, which I don't believe that naturally the West naturally lends itself to. Of course, today you're seeing the growth of communities, of people coming together because they finally find that sort of mutual identity and voice that they want to connect on. But the time when I was, I really didn't see that. And I think that is truly when you come back and you're craving that back home. That is what it's not just, the idea of family is much larger. Are people around you, people who make you believe in things and believe in a sense of purpose. For me, that truly is that separation and difference. Yeah.
I haven't, like I mentioned, I've not gotten the chance to obviously live abroad to understand the main differences. But I think one of the things that in India we've always lacked was access for people to come together, or inclusivity, right? Giving access to everyone to play a role in society or be able to just do what they want. But that's actually a drawback in India, but it's also the driving force of India, which is we don't have what a lot of communities abroad do, but then we try to figure out the solutions on how to make it happen, right? I mean, we've had that with us trying to build a company, or it's also individuals who don't have access, they always figure out a way. And that's something that I think is a little differentiated because of no access. But that driving force is exactly the reason why we keep innovating and figuring out solutions, no matter where we come from. Anyway.
I think scarcity thrives innovation, exactly. And I think that's important. But I also feel like, I mean, I'm not going to, don't quote me, but until the incumbent government that we had, India was a secular society. And that's something I was so proud of when I was in LA and I studied. And I loved that we celebrated different religious festivals with Eid and, with good, what is it? What is Guru Jayanti? Guru Nanak Jayanti, or all kinds of festivals, the Christmas. And there was a strong sense of community and secularism that was there. And today, of course, it's high. There is a divisiveness that you're seeing, and we know why. And you're sort of seeing that across the world in terms of the sort of right-wing ideology that's been permeating. But the sense of that secularism was there. That was the core fabric of our society.
Right. So tell us a bit more about Homegrown and how you're trying to keep these values alive.
So Homegrown is the next-gen youth culture platform for the creative class of India. We're structured as an online publication, a creative agency, an events company, and a creator network. We started in 2014. I wouldn't say it was a time of the pandemic, but how the world has had the rug swept off its feet to reimagine, to reset, and to revisit how the world needs to be. We believe that there was a need for us to do that for India at that time, especially for the urban Indian youth. There were a lot of communities that were thriving across art, music, fashion, design, sports. There was this new there was a new identity bubbling in India that was so diverse that the world didn't perceive us for. And this was yet to grow. We believe that there was a need for a platform that essentially brought all this together to create dialogue, because what we believe is to bring cultural and societal change, dialogue needs to be created, which we luckily did through our platform online. But the real impact happens when we bring it offline. Over time, we've done a lot of events, we've done a lot of experiences, both online and offline, which feed into each other essentially. And these are the ecosystem that we build for communities to build what we believe is homegrown. And just to kind of give you a little bit of an understanding, over the last 5 to 6 years, it's been an incredible time for India. And we were really lucky that we got a chance to not only document it, but become this platform to bring about and showcase who are the new thought leaders, who are the cultural pioneers, and what's required next to bring that alive and to showcase the India narrative to the world.
Just adding to what Varun said, I think what's very important in terms of sort of our ethos was always to sort of change the narrative. It came from a place where we wanted to document youth culture and be a platform for youth culture, which was breaking stereotypes, which wasn't defined by society's idea of who you want to be, who you need to be, and who you should be. It was about sort of giving platform to new movements and the creative revolution that wasn't, again, defined by this very narrow lens of what the Indian identity is, right? You can choose to be whoever you want to be. And we spoke about, we take on conversations and narratives which are uncomfortable, which are unfiltered, with a strong lens of the visual arts and the creative movements. And that's really the place. Everything that we do at Homegrown comes from a place where we want to shift the needle on the conversations. We want to shift the needle in thinking. We want to shift the needle in sort of a new idea, a place where you don't feel stifled. And that was really a place with which, we built Homegrown.
But tell me, how were you able to turn Homegrown into such a successful business with all these big brands and partners involved?
It was incredibly challenging. We are a bootstrapped platform. People have this perception of us, but we've built this with a lot of sacrifices. We started out when people said that we wouldn't survive in India because the mainstream was the norm. And we'd gone to meet potential investors, and he literally said that Homegrown won't survive if it's not like this other brand, because they didn't understand what we were looking to create and build.
So to bring any cultural change or to build a community, you need an ecosystem that's supporting it. Let's look at the best examples. They come from cities like you have in Germany. You have entrepreneurs, you have spaces, you have policymakers, you have government support, you have cultural funding that essentially drives tourism, drives cultural change, makes the city come alive. It's a similar thing for us, but for the youth in India. To make that happen, we see ourselves as a nucleus for bringing around change in culture. But to bring that about, we need an ecosystem that needs support. That is made up of the people we feature. It's made up of the brands we partner with that help accelerate this cultural change. It is made up of the spaces that we take up to bring the community offline. It also is a place which we consistently drive dialogue using our digital platforms. But to make this happen, we structure our company in such a way where there's the online publication digital network where we create dialogue. We work as an agency where we collaborate with brands to do content for them, events for them, campaigns, and to reach the youth in a non-traditional sense of how they communicate with the youth to bring this change. We also work as an events company, but for us, events are not just a party, a festival. We believe the communities that are thriving online need a space to come offline. And these have ranged in various levels. They've ranged from us doing over 20 to 30 launches for Nike, Puma, Adidas, to hosting India's first skateboarding gathering, surfing festival in 2014, to the larger festivals that we build out for brands like Budweiser, for AB InBev and any others. But also we build our own IPs, because generally in India, IPs are looked at in a very traditional format of either conferences, fashion weeks, or music festivals. We wanted to break the way in which communities can come together with one festival of ours called Homegrown Street. This was a place where we brought together what was happening in street culture in India under one space, but also bring a lot of the world to see what's happening in India at that moment. That's an overview of things. We've been really lucky to work on diverse amount of projects. These projects can range, like we said, yes, we've done some of the biggest launches in India for the biggest brands, but we've also worked with the likes of a UNICEF to drive 2 to 3 million signups of moving and lobbying for change of policies for juvenile justice bills. We've worked on campaigns with Johnny Walker for responsible drinking, and also bring down a 2-time Formula One world champion. We've also bring together some of the biggest music festivals, but curated, which is not just music and visuals and much more. So that's just a quick overview, but Varsha, you can also talk about some of our various other campaigns and what we've done for brands and why do they come to us. That's very different, unlike any other agency that provides such kind of service in the country.
And that's the thing I would like to add is that we're not a traditional agency. We're not a traditional experiential agency. And it's very important that we are culture-led. We're a platform, we're a media platform, which is building and hoping for change every day and creating dialogue and building and sort of documenting new communities and documenting what the emerging creative shifting energy and movements and emerging voices are. With that lens, when we partner with brands, it's not, we don't just it's not content, right? They partner with us because they really they want to shift, hopefully be a part of the youth culture zeitgeist, and we partner with them in the most honest, authentic way that we can. And that's where the shift is. We're not just producing content for them. We don't do that. We believe that our platform is core. If you want to speak to you want to partner with our community, you believe in building value and purpose with our community, that's when we really partner with them. Even in terms of experiences, the way we look at it is, yes, we've done launches of Nike, Adidas, Puma, and like manifold brands, but what really separates it, they're not just launches. It's for the first time we've documented and we partnered with visual artists and creators and different creators in varied spaces and independent perspectives it was always mainstream dominated. And that's where we've come in terms of identifying these new microcosms and subcultures. I don't think anything's really a subculture anymore because nothing's really subversive with the internet, right? But I think it's about sort of partnering with these incredible creators to sort of shape these new movements who believe in these. The launches are more than just the product of a new Nike shoe. It's that ethos, right? What is it standing for? Is it sort of being progressive and partnering with creators in the most authentic way? And that's really the place with which we look at it. Even with Budweiser, I mean, we partnered with their global agency in conceptualizing, BudX, which was the first of its kind music IP for Budweiser globally. And the way we look at things in terms of we're not creating just experiences. It needs to say something. It needs to have purpose. It needs to push boundaries. It needs to give a platform to emerging creators and creative voices in the country. Otherwise, we don't want to be part of it, That's really not the place with which we create or we partner with brands or do campaigns in any way.
So creating offline experiences are also very important to Homegrown. How did the pandemic affect your work, and how did you guys cope with it?
It started off with a bang, I would say, in a way where it made us realize the severity of what's actually going to be coming, or rather what we didn't know was coming. 3 weeks before our festival, we had to pull the plug on it. This was on March 22nd last year. When we're reading about this all over the internet. Our clients mentioned how are we going to be managing this, what's happening, but then we decided, it's safety first, let's figure out what's next. And then we also managed to get a good break at that first 3 weeks of it and give our team a break. But what started essentially happening was exactly like Varsha said, being bootstrapped, or rather not having the access to be able to do things with a small team has always been a challenge, but it excites us because it's like a David and Goliath always with Homegrown. Yeah. I hope we don't continue only that whole time, but it excites us because if a small team of 10 to 15 people can do this, when you have other people doing this with 100 and 200 people, I know what we can pull off. So the year was, I would say the saddest thing only was that we had to give our office away. But I think what is more important was retaining our team, making sure that they are good, and we didn't reduce any salaries. That was key of whatever we wanted to make happen first.
Also, just to add that, experiences is a huge part of our revenue model. Yeah. So that was a huge hit for us. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for us, it was to then think of three things, what we always did. One, how do we support our company? How do we support our community? Something that we've always done online. How do we do it now, whether it was our frontline workers or other people that we work with? Two is to figure out what are the new innovative ways that we can reach out to our audiences and for our brand partners to support and give back. And third is continuing what Homegrown does, always innovating. So I'll go backwards. Innovation. We tried out new different formats of content and launched various different content pillars that people really want to learn and know and build on. So we launched something called Homegrown Academy, which was a skill building educative series to work with India's best creators online, who are architects, designers, scientists, filmmakers. You get to learn from them online using Zoom, Instagram, etc. Next, going backwards, how do we support a community? We worked with various brands, whether it was Bacardi, whether it was Cred, whether it was Bira, whether it was Singapore Tourism. All the brands essentially came to us on what can you do for us But we thought of it with the core of being, how can we give back to the creative community? So we built out digital festivals, which brought together almost 6,000 to 8,000 people online over one day, sent people kits at home, created an at-home experience. Two, we were driving awareness for various festivals that are happening globally. So people can't travel to Singapore, but you can join in online at least. The next format of things that we essentially tried was working on long-term ambassador programs for certain creators, where we work with G-Shock to do, again, digital festivals. We did influencer marketing campaigns and a varied mix of things. But it all kind of came together with us figuring out what's next. And this is something I've always been inspired by, is we work really closely with the Night Commission of Berlin. His name is Lutz. I can never say Lutz's surname, but I always see how they are innovating with their cities, hybrid experiences, and more. So we utilized some of those examples, crafted it for India, and we built one of the first and the largest hybrid festivals with Bacardi last year. This was about 3 months back, just before the second wave kind of hit in.
March 2021.
Yeah, March 2021. We reached out to almost 9,000 people online over one day.
Unique attendees.
We had 3,000 people across 5 cities spread out in batches of 200, 150, 600, from a club to a hotel to various experiences. So it kind of showed us that the future where things lie and what we need to do, because digital is here to stay. Hybrid experiences are here to stay, but that's one piece. Now, coming back to supporting the community, we have been really lucky that thanks to our brand partners, we've almost been able to give back, I would say last year, almost $150,000 back to the creative community of India in some capacity. Supporting industries when we did our fundraising for the frontliners, we have done so much more again. And that was the intention, where community, working with brand partners and giving back to our audiences over this entire time. So it's been tough, but it's been really a lot of fun.
Thanks so much for taking out the time for us. Is there anything else you would like to share with our community? Any advice for young entrepreneurs in the cultural field?
The only thing that I can say, and something that we've really lived by, is that we work our asses off. We truly believe, and we have a love and passion for what we do. And that's why when shit gets hard, we're able to overcome that, is because of the love and the belief in with what we want to do. And it's bigger than the two of us. It's bigger than, our team members. It has to be. We want Homegrown to breathe, today to represent that voice and that movement that is, that sort of represents a more progressive India, represents a new kind of freedom. And that's, when you're creating something, it needs to be bigger than you, and it needs to be bigger than, than your own. Yeah.
I was going to say something very similar to what Varsha closed with, but for the people tuning in or all the other people part of the festival, I would like to just say one thing, that one, I hope we all get to meet soon offline. One. But two, if we got a chance. No, we got a chance.
I said, sorry, I can't do these digital things anymore. Don't quote me.
But yeah, exactly like Varsha said, it's like we need to be able to just come together to do better for the people around us. It's simple as that much. There are times that we get too caught up by doing something for just ourselves. It's fine. We need to pay attention to, but the more people we can bring together, the more people we can do things for, the better this decade would be. We've seen this, like the internet, the last decade, defined everything for us. Where we were at the start of the 2000s was an incredible age, right? We didn't know what was coming our way. And by the end of it, this divided us, this tore us apart, but also it has brought us together. So we know what to take, we know what to drop, we know what to reimagine. Simple.